One of the longest lasting sneers directed at those who are against immigration is that they are so stupid, these people who are against immigrants, that they think that immigrants can both take away jobs and be on welfare. You'll have seen such jibes on the internet over the years, which usually involve the phrase, "So which is it? Do they take the jobs or are they on welfare? Which is it?" This is intended to be a killer objection, because it is implied these anti-immigrant buffoons are so stupid that they will say contradictory things. The migrants both take all the jobs and they're on welfare. This literally defies the law of non-contradiction, one of the basic laws of logic. It's as dumb as trying to square the circle. They can't be both. They can't take the jobs away and be on welfare, you dumb redneck bigoted hick. It's amazing how such a midwit response can have survived for so many years. Of course it can be both. Here's a simple imaginary scenario to illustrate this. Suppose a town has 3,000 jobs available. Suppose 6,000 migrants arrive, and 3,000 take the vacant jobs, and 3,000 go on welfare. So in this scenario, they've both taken all the available jobs in town, and they've significantly added to the welfare bill. Nothing remotely impossible about it. Of course, in the real world, you're not going to get such a simple and stark example. But the objection being made is supposed to be a matter of logic, so it doesn't matter that our example is somewhat unrealistic and simplified. Remember that the objection is that it is logically impossible that migrants can both take the jobs and be on welfare. And saying it is logically impossible means there cannot be any possible worlds, that is, any possible or hypothetical scenarios where such a thing could happen. But we easily show that it could happen, so it isn't logically impossible. So the objection, far from being a slam dunk, is merely a confusion on the part of the scoffing leftist, who imagines himself to be Mr. Logic, but is in fact Mr. Muddled about things he half remembers from that one philosophy class he did. What is true is that one individual migrant can't both be employed and on welfare. Actually, even that's not necessarily true, because the migrant might be in part-time work and thus still qualifies for welfare, or in full-time work but on low pay, so he still qualifies for some welfare, depending on the rules where he lives. It could even be that in some places he's in full-time work, which is decently paid work, but he still qualifies for some sort of welfare that is specifically directed at migrants, even those in work. But let's ignore all these qualifications, which complicate the essential points. Let's accept that we define our terms and set up our hypothetical scenario in such a way that a migrant is either in work or on welfare, but he can't be both. So the law of non-contradiction tells us that it is true of any individual migrant, given these provisos, that he or she cannot both be in work and on welfare. That's fine, but the same does not apply to a group of migrants. Some of the migrants in the group can be in work and some can be on welfare. Obviously, this is not rocket science. This is basic stuff that a 3-year-old can understand. It is true that it can't be that all the migrants are both in work and on welfare. Sure, the law of non-contradiction does tell you that. But no one's saying that. What anti-migrant people are saying is that some migrants are taking jobs and some are on welfare. No one is saying that all of them have jobs and also all of them are unemployed and on the dole. No one would make such a nonsensical claim. No, it is that some of them take jobs and some take welfare. There is no logical fallacy in that assertion, so the pro-migrants claim that the anti-migrant position is logically incoherent fails. So if you ever see this sort of claim made, don't be intimidated if you think somehow some logical fallacy might have been committed. It hasn't, and the objection is foolish. One more thing to finish up on. The pro-migrant arguer might complain that the anti-migrant position here leaves the migrants in an impossible situation. They either have to get a job or go on welfare, assuming they are not individually wealthy, which almost none will be. So how can they win? They get a job, the antis complain they're taking jobs. But if they don't get a job, they have to go on welfare, but then the antis complain about that. The poor migrants are caught between a rock and a hard place. They can't win. Isn't there something logically dubious about that? Well, no. There's no logical flaw there, no contradiction. Yes, the migrant can't win if they stay, so they have to leave. That's not a contradiction. If an intruder in your house refuses to leave and says they can either stay up all night watching TV in your lounge or go to sleep in your spare room, and you say neither is acceptable, they have to leave, you've obviously said nothing contradictory. They just don't like it. Your position on the migrants is likewise logically fine. You don't want them there regardless of whether they have a job or are on welfare. No contradiction in that. For the sake of completeness, I should note that some people who are anti-migrant don't object to migrants who have jobs, just migrants who are on welfare. But even if you hold the stronger position, which disapproves of migrants who have jobs as well, your stance is still logically consistent. The pro-migrant side might then change tack to say that even if none of this is logically contradictory, it is somehow morally unfair. Well, I don't think it is, but that's an issue for another day. In this video, I just wanted to look at the logic involved, because the objection I started with was a logical objection that implicitly drew upon the law of non-contradiction. And that objection doesn't hold up, because, as I explained, some of the migrants can take jobs, and some migrants can be on welfare. All the other issues, the moral aspects, the economics, and so on, are additional separate issues to this. But on the logic, there is no logical inconsistency.